want to go to New York City now because, when we talk about how people are enduring this, it's the teens and the high school kids who are also struggling. We've got Hafeez Lakhani, college admissions expert and president of Lakhani Coaching, LLC. And so, Hafeez, thanks so much for joining us. A lot of attention has been
Thanks for having me.
Put on these, high school seniors because they're trying to figure out this whole college process. They can't visit, and that's a tough thing. But we can't forget about the high school juniors when you're talking about the AP test, the SAT, the ACT. I know a lot of parents who are sitting there going, what does this mean? Either my kid hasn't taken the ACT or the SAT yet, and maybe this takes away 2 or 3 or maybe 1 or 2 opportunities for them to do that. How will colleges look at this? How do we manage this? So on top of the stress of just our everyday, we worry about our children's future, and this is a big thing. What are you telling folks, especially maybe they don't have great grades in their spring quarter and now they're remote learning?
Sure. For high school juniors especially, this is an unprecedented time. I mean, not only are hundreds of thousands of high school juniors, high school students in general, now doing virtual learning, but especially for college preparatory tasks like the SAT and ACT, domestically, there are only 7 SAT dates a year. Internationally, there are only 4 SAT dates a year. One of those just got canceled worldwide, the May SAT sitting. So there's a lot of anxiety out there in terms of when will people get a chance to take the tests that are required for the vast majority of colleges. One piece of advice I'm sharing, the colleges have a lot going on right now in terms of, obviously they had their entire campuses leave and they're doing remote learning themselves. But I think you can expect that this fall there will be some adjustments to the rules for admissions. I think you're going to see a temporary experimentation with test optional at a number of universities to basically take some of the pressure off of students who weren't able to take those SAT or ACT sittings on schedule.
Right. Do you think the problem is right now, too, is that though there is no decision and that increases the anxiety? I mean, I've seen some colleges who say, okay, May 1st was always the deadline, going back to the college seniors where you had to say, this is where I'm going to commit to. Some are saying June 1st. Some are still saying May 1st. And so when it comes to the juniors, they have more time to kind of adjust what they want to do. And that's why they're not making maybe clear decisions yet.
Sure. So first of all, for juniors and for all high school students, I say this is not a snow day, right? We don't just sit back and relax and say, hey, everything is virtual. My assignments won't be graded as closely, or if my grades slip this term, it's not a big deal. Actually, I think you should, as long as you're healthy and you're so fortunate to be sitting at home and actually able to learn, I think it's really important to take your learning seriously, take your grades seriously, because yes, there will be some sympathy for people who dealt with turbulence during this time, but selective admissions will remain selective. And come application time, your transcript will reflect how seriously you took your academic life during this window.
Yes.
As far as seniors, you made a great point. We are in kind of no man's land. So really important dates coming up. April 1st, just around the corner, is typically the deadline by which colleges notify the vast majority of applicants whether they've been accepted, denied, or waitlisted. This year is unprecedented in terms of how important the waitlist is going to be. It's almost certain that yield, the percentage of students who come to a college that were accepted, is going to drop tremendously this year due to health issues in families, financial issues, and international students. There's a huge question mark on whether international students will show up this year.
Right, if they can plan on that, right? I mean,
I'm sorry?
Whether they can plan on even being able to attend college if we still have some travel restrictions in place, right?
Absolutely. Travel restrictions, there's a huge question mark as to whether student visas will be granted on the same level that they've been granted in the past. We've been seeing a drop in international enrollment on the Open Doors report for the last 2 years running. I think this year you're going to see a huge drop. So colleges are going to be in a huge financial kind of balancing act of where are they going to get these tuition dollars that international students typically provide.
Right.
You may be aware that international students supply about $41 billion to the U.S. economy every year. So there's going to be a giant question mark as to, okay, if those dollars aren't showing up, where are the other students going to come in to fill in those sort of seats? And that's where the wait lists come in. So I'm advising high school seniors right now, you'll be finding out in a week or so, in many cases, where you've gotten into college. If you are waitlisted to a school that is a high on your list, a place where you would absolutely matriculate if you were accepted, take that waitlist offer very seriously and write a letter of continued interest. And in that letter, it shouldn't be just a generic letter. It should be a sincere and specific letter. I'm asking seniors to do two things. One, talk about what has changed, what has progressed in your character story since you applied 3 or 4 months ago. And B, if you would absolutely attend that school were it offered to you, make that commitment in writing. Say, if I were given an offer of acceptance, I would absolutely take it and come, join your campus.
That's certainly great information. I wonder, what about the people, the kids who have parents whose jobs are affected by this pandemic, who said, you know what, where my parents were working before, I could afford to go to this school. Now we don't know if we can afford to pay our rent or our mortgage, and I'm not sure if I should say yes because I'm not sure where my family stands.
Exactly. It's a heartbreaking situation. I mean, honestly, in my lifetime, I've never seen anything like this. So we're going to see some really tough decisions families have to make and schools have to make in terms of people who applied to college, let's say a private university that has a certain cost, and they're offered financial aid, but that financial aid may not make up for what, the affordability gap, right? And so that's, again, going back to why yield this year will almost certainly drop, because there are so many variables, so many intangibles, that they're going to be heartbreaking stories in every direction, whether it's domestic students or international students, people who wanted to attend a certain college when they applied 3 or 4 months ago, and when they get their letters, it may not be possible for them to show up.
Do you think they'll adjust financial aid? I mean, people who have filled out those FAFSA forms and have asked for financial aid, given these new circumstances, can they expect maybe some more help to make that possible?
At the most selective universities, yes. At the most selective universities, they often correlate to having large endowments. And though endowments are taking a hit with the kind of turmoil in the financial markets, those endowments are there for kind of a rainy day, right? And those universities, the Harvards, the Stanfords, the Yales, the Columbias, above all, they want to bring in the greatest class possible.
Yeah.
They want to create the greatest dining hall discussion, the greatest dorm hall discussion, the greatest class discussion. So in a year where there's going to be more need, they have the resources to provide for that need in terms of financial aid.
Well, it feels like if that's a rainy day fund, yeah, if that's a rainy day fund, it feels.
The opposite is true for sort of middle tier or less selective universities. They are going to experience a financial hit that they've probably not seen in more than 20 or 30 years in terms of tuition dollars not showing up, and they don't have the rainy day fund that the more well-endowed universities have.
So much to think about. I imagine there'll be an asterisk by everyone's junior spring semester across the country, and I imagine that we'll see a lot of college application essays that deal directly with pandemic and how it affected people personally. So,
absolutely.
I feel for these students and what's ahead, and so we appreciate your insight as we navigate this uncertain territory for them.
Sure.
All right. That's Hafeez Lakhani, the college admissions expert and president of Lakhani Coaching. Certainly a very, very tough time for high school students, as they deal with really not just what is in front of them today, but their dreams of their future and really what they thought it would look like and how that landscape continues to change.